Next on Veterans Matters, we'll learn more about Operation Hat Trick, a program started by one woman in New Hampshire that benefits wounded soldiers through proceeds from specially designed hats. That's coming up next, so stay tuned. Well, Steve, today we're not just talking about hats, we're talking about a special collection of hats from Operation Hat Trick. Tell us a little bit about how this program started.
The program started in 2007 at the University of New Hampshire, and what they wanted to do, they found out that veterans with head injuries, soldiers with head injuries, really appreciated hats, something to cover their wounds. And what they started doing, hockey being a very popular sport in New Hampshire at the University of New Hampshire, Operation Hat Trick, which is 3 goals in a game, what they started doing, for every 2 hats sold, they gave one to a veteran, a VA hospital, to a wounded soldier. And it grew from there. And very sadly, so it started in 2007. In February of 2008, the son of a University of New Hampshire faculty member who was a Navy SEAL was killed in action, Nate Hardy. And Nate and his best friend were both killed in action while serving our country, and the program was really expanded from there. His family got behind it, very supportive, and it grew. And where it's grown to the point now, I believe this fall there will be more than 75 universities participating. Eastern Illinois was one of the first 25 in the country, and 10% of the retail or the wholesale price of every hat sold goes to the VA General Post Fund, which in effect goes to Veterans Administration hospitals to assist our wounded soldiers. So
how did Eastern and you in your role as Director of Alumni Services get involved in Operation Hat Trick?
One of my roles is to serve as the Trademark Licensing Director for Eastern. And in doing that, we've worked with the Collegiate Licensing Company, which is an IMG company, for about 17 years now. And they first made us aware of it, invited us to participate, and we were, how could you say no to something like this? We were absolutely thrilled to be able to participate, and that would have been maybe last summer of 2011, and it started moving in the fall, and the hats arrived on campus late this spring.
Okay, so if people are interested in buying them, where can they get them here in Charleston?
Right now, they are only available at the Union Bookstore on campus. Now, having said that, they're also available on their website. So they can be purchased in the bookstore, on the website. There are 3 different styles right now, and I think that's pretty consistent with most of the schools. There are 3 styles. Our bookstore decided to order all 3, and we're really excited about being able to promote these and to help our veterans and soldiers at the same time.
Because we actually do have a lot of veterans here on our campus, and that number is growing.
We absolutely do, and that's something that it's a way to show support not only to veterans across the country, but also to our own folks on campus.
So let's take a look at these hats. They have the Eastern logo on them.
Yes.
And then some of them, they all do, and then it says Operation Hat Trick on
And then each one is also branded with the Operation Hat Trick logo on the back, and then each hat also has a hang tag, which has photos of Nate Hardy and Mike Koch, who were the 2 SEALs who were killed in action, and a little bit more about the story behind the program. Okay,
so again, the proceeds. What percentage? These hats retail for, I think, $17.99, something like that.
I think in that ballpark, yes.
And then what percent goes to Operation Hat Trick?
10% of the bookstore price. So 10% of the bookstore price goes to Operation Hat Trick, and then there's another percentage for all Eastern branded apparel or items, whatever they may be. There's another percentage that comes back to Eastern, but for these specifically, it's 10% goes to Operation Hat Trick.
So walk us through, what was kind of the process of Eastern getting involved with this program?
First of all, I think all the credit goes to Dot Sheehan, who is an associate athletic director at the University of New Hampshire. This was her initiative, and it has really grown. I think Dot would be the first to tell you, grown beyond where she envisioned it might go. But as we found out about it and were invited to participate, like I said, it was absolutely a no-brainer. We said yes. And from there, it was simply a matter of finding a retailer. From the trademark licensing side, we don't actually order any product. We simply, it has to do with the branding and making sure we protect the Eastern brand. And so finding a retailer, and then 47 brand, who's also a licensee for Major League Baseball, the NHL. They do a very, just a great quality product. 47 brand is the official licensee for this product. We talked to the bookstore. They were absolutely on board, and again ordered hats in each of the 3 styles, and it's just grown from there.
So is this a program that the Hat Trick, it's only universities that participate in it?
Yes, and I think there's some talk, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, there's some talk about expanding this to possibly different products and the like, and but again, right now it's universities, and really its roots are really tied to collegiate hockey, but definitely to the college market, and so that's where it is right now.
So will the product line expand to other? I mean, obviously, hats are the main product.
You want a pink one, right?
I kind of do. Yes, I'd like one. Can you get one for me?
We'll see what we can do.
Okay. Is it only hats and only these styles, or will they change over time?
Right now, it's hats in these styles, and again, as the program continues to grow, I think it's like anything else. If the program grows and there's demand, there could certainly be opportunities for other products down the road.
Okay. So how have the sales of these gone?
To be quite honest, I think the bookstore could better answer that. They arrived late in the spring, and so I think we really, our students, for the most part, we have some students here for the summer session, but given the time they arrived on campus, our students really haven't had the chance to see them, and we're really starting to push this. We're going to make alumni aware of it, and try to make people in the community aware of it, and this is certainly a wonderful avenue to do that. And so again, we would love to be in a position where the bookstore turns around and says we need to reorder. How quickly can we get them?
And what other are there other universities here in Illinois that are partaking in this?
The only, to my knowledge, I think the last time I looked, the only other Illinois university was Southern Illinois University Carbondale. They were also one of the first 25, so maybe that's a better way. They were one of the first 25, and as the program is growing, I don't know if there are other Illinois universities now, but Eastern and Southern were 2 of the first 25 in the country. Okay.
Well, it sounds like a great program, Steve. Thanks for thinking about it and for coming on the show and telling us a little bit more about it. We're going to talk in just a minute with Dot Sheehan, the founder of Operation Hat Trick, in just a bit, so don't go away. Don't forget, you can watch more episodes of Veterans Matters online anytime. Just visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/WEIUTV. You can find all of our episodes under the Veterans Matters playlist. If you have questions or comments about our show, please email them to the address on the screen or give us a call during regular business hours at 581-5956. Dot, Steve told us a little bit about Operation Hat Trick. Can you explain what it is in your own words?
It is a merchandise program that helps recovering soldiers and veterans in VA medical centers. And in 2007, I heard a radio broadcast on a Boston station that asked, what is the one thing head wounded soldiers returning from Iraq and Afghanistan want the most? And I played along with that, quite frankly, and I couldn't imagine what it was. And the answer was a baseball cap. And it meant that guys could cover their wounds, their scars, their burns, their swelling. And, during the night I said, oh my gosh, it should be so easy. We have to do something. So we live and die by hockey here at UNH. And I thought of Operation Hat Trick in the middle of the night. And a couple of months later, Dr. Hardy's son, Nate Hardy, died in Iraq in February of 2008. And we asked the Hardys if we could dedicate the program to Nate, and they very humbly said yes. It was a very local UNH program for a couple of years. And then the licensing director at Notre Dame said, you really need to bring this national. Well, I said, oh my gosh, how the heck do you do that? And he said, you find a headwear provider, you get schools to buy in, you give some money to a charity, and the schools make money. So now the program is this. There is a royalty that comes back to every school, their normal royalty that they get, and an additional royalty has been added, and we give money to the VA General Post Fund, and that is a fund that donates everything they get to patient recovery, and the patients are in VA medical centers. We did this because nationwide, every state has at least one VA medical center. We probably have the smallest in the country here in New Hampshire. And another thing that motivated us to do this was that, we go to the VA Medical Center in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we hear that 6 of the guys, the patients, go bowling, and they don't have enough money afterward to buy pizza. And you say that is just unbelievable. They can't raise money for themselves because they're a federal agency. They can take donations, but they can't raise that money. So we do something here at UNH at Operation Hat Trick Night where we have a hat raffle and we turn the proceeds over to their rec therapy department in the VA Medical Center. And you would think you gave them $1 million. My daughter-in-law works at the La Jolla, California VA Medical Center, and they service 50,000 vets. Now, we thought when we went national in January of this year, we were told if you get 10 or 12 schools, let's work with that. It'll be fine. We'll grow from there. And today we have 90 schools on board. So my head spins a little bit about all of that. But we're going next week to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda. We will visit amputees and head wounded soldiers again. And this time we have more than just UNH hats. We have 144 samples from all different kinds of schools. We have a new batch of Notre Dame hats. We have some George Washington hats. So we have hats to give these guys. Eventually we hope we would get into a full product line. The next might be a polo shirt. Frankly, we're talking to Brooks Brothers about that. Something subtle, classy, that they could run through bookstores or retailers or in their own stores. We do have a minor league baseball initiative that's been accepted by Major League Baseball, where 175 teams next season will have access to Operation Hat Trick hats. We're talking to lids, and we're talking to college baseball and softball. So, wow, those just really make my head spin.
So did you ever imagine it would take off like this when you when you started?
Absolutely not, but it only takes one trip to Walter Reed. Last year we saw 60 Marines in a workout room. Everybody was 25 or under. On average, every young man was missing both legs and an arm. And head wounded patients, wow. They don't remember they got married, never mind that the wife is going to have a baby next week, some of them. So, they're but for the grace of God, go any one of us or our kids or anybody we know. And we've seen some pretty tough stuff. And their resiliency, their positive attitude is more than you can believe, quite frankly.
So you mentioned there's 93 schools that are doing this. Are there more schools? Our university here, Eastern, is one of them. Are there more schools that are wanting to get involved, more universities?
Well, when we went national, Fox News out of Boston did a feature. I got 52 emails from people saying, well, why can't my school belong? Initially, only collegiate licensing company schools could belong. And then, you get something from a Maine, for instance, who's in our hockey conference, or you get something from North Carolina State, and you say, oh my gosh, they're represented by a competitor, but that shouldn't make any difference. It's all about the young man with no legs and one arm. And so we have worked out a system where competing licensing companies, their schools have access. And so LRG, for instance, has gone out and fully supported to a test market, 60 schools, and we have some of them on board. And I will say, it would go from 22 to 50 to 70, and now we're at 93. It's like, oh yeah, really, any school, any prep school, any private school could belong to this. Can they support it in terms of the order is at least 72 per design, and then are they going to promote it, or are the bookstores going to take it? That's more the question than do people want to do it. I presented in Atlanta, got a standing ovation, by the way. There was not a dry eye in the place, including me. Went to Dallas, presented there to a marketing group, had standing room only on 2 occasions. And afterward, you just say, oh boy, the doors are open now, watch out. So, all kinds of things. People will say, do you want to be introduced to the NHL? Well, if somebody offers that, you don't say no. So we will be. We're not sure where that's going to go, but there are an awful lot of people who are willing to do things to make this a huge success.
So explain a little bit, how does the money eventually end up with the veterans or the veterans department?
Okay. A hat, there's a wholesale price. Let's say it's $10. In that $10, there's a royalty for the school, and there's a royalty for the VA General Post Fund. So I would buy that hat for $10. I would sell it for $22. The royalties have already been figured out. The royalty that comes back to UNH comes back to UNH. The royalty that goes to the VA General Post Fund goes right from collegiate licensing to the VA General Post Fund.
So do you have an idea of how much money this has raised?
Well, you know what? This year we're probably at around $10,000, but keep in mind we went national January 25th. People to order hats, do designs, do the paperwork, it's at least 120 days. So there's only about 2 months there where people actually got hats and paid. So the next year it will be tens of thousands of dollars. The Naval Academy, for instance, last Saturday night, 2 weeks ago, Saturday night, I got 15 emails, have no clue who any of these young men are, except I recognized one name as a young man who emailed me a couple of months ago, and he wanted the Naval Academy to be on board, and they weren't at the time. And I noticed his name, so otherwise I would have deleted all of those. I thought it was just, spam or something. It was the entire hockey team. And they had their gear except for a hat. And they wanted to honor Nate and Mike Koch by wearing an Operation Hat Trick hat. So today I have the first design that they have approved, that that entire Navy hockey team will wear that hat, and they placed a significant order. So they're going to sell them, and that's fine. And then the Naval Academy came on board, a couple of weeks before that. So the Naval Academy is critical because both of these young men were Navy SEALs.
Okay. So it just starts, it seems like, with one simple idea, and you never know where these things can take off to.
Somebody said to me, imagine if you hadn't heard that broadcast. I said, you know what? Imagine if I hadn't been the kind of person I am. Because how many people heard the same thing? An awful lot of people heard the same thing I heard. And here in this community, we not only love Donna and Steve Hardy, we would do anything in the world for them and their family. And it's just a very, very, well, I'll tell you, it's a very humbling experience when you go to Washington. And these young men are sorry to hear that Nate was killed. And, Donna and Steve lost another son many years ago to brain cancer. And you wonder how they stand upright every day, quite frankly. And they do, and they're positive, and they are really an inspiration to those of us who haven't had that tragedy. So, a simple idea that it's very humbling. At this point in my life, I say, wow, it couldn't be more special.
Yeah. Sounds like you're doing good things. And we're going to talk to Stephen Hardy in just a minute. But Dot, thank you so much for joining us. It's a great program. And I know here at Eastern, as our school year is getting started, I know we're excited here on our campus to get the hats out there because we just got them at the end of the school year. So
that's right. And for us on February 10th, we had an Operation Hat Trick night, and the hats were sold out a half hour before the game started. So I needed to run real fast. And again, when you reorder, it takes you that 100 days or so. I mean, I've got people in a local grocery store who are at the deli counter. They're wearing the hats, and then the hats are for sale up front. We have a local beer distributorship. It's quite large in the state of New Hampshire. Everybody all of their delivery men who go to the beer coolers are going to be wearing Operation Hat Trick hats. And they do many events where they're going to buy it at the wholesale price, sell it at the retail price, but give Operation Hat Trick the difference. They're not going to keep the difference. They're going to donate it back to the program because, of course, the program has to, stay alive and support itself. So that's pretty special. Every day I must get somebody calling and asking about, what do you think about this? And we have to really hone in on the 4 or 5 things we can do well this year because, of course, I have another position here at the university that takes a lot of my time. But believe me, it is a labor of love to do Operation Hat Trick.
All right. Well, Dot, thank you so much for joining us on Veterans Matters. Steve, thanks for joining us via the internet, via Skype. Talk about your son and tell us a little bit about him as a person and his military career.
Sure. Well, Nate, when he was in the 6th grade, wrote a school paper, and he said he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. We weren't sure where he got his inspiration, although I will admit that the Charlie Sheen movie had just come out. Be that as it may, shortly thereafter, his oldest brother was diagnosed with brain cancer and had a 17-month battle and then died in 1993. And Nate was in the 8th grade. And those were very hard times for Nate. Several things got him through. Lacrosse was one, soccer was another, but the dream of being a SEAL sustained him, and we were able to link him with some retired SEALs in the area, one of whom worked in the same department as I did. And they kind of took him under his wing, and he enlisted November after his graduation from high school and never looked back. And he was a little over 10 years in the Navy, and 8.5 of those as a Navy SEAL. So he was able to fulfill his dream. Mike Koch, to whom the national program is also dedicated, had a similar career and similar interests. Mike spent 3 semesters at Penn State and then enlisted. Both Nate and Mike were enlisted men in the Navy SEALs. That is one unit where the enlisted men kind of run the show, particularly the chiefs, who are like master sergeants. They're the top non-commissioned officers. And both Nate and Mike had been promoted to the status of chief shortly before they were killed. They were friends. They had both been on East Coast SEAL teams, and they both were on the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, what the public now calls SEAL Team 6, when they were killed.
So tell us about your thoughts about Operation Hat Trick and when that all came about.
Well, I've known Dot for some time. She is a design genius. She was in charge of the complete overhaul of the UNH logos a number of years ago. I served on that committee and was able to watch her lead this pack of various characters through this process. And I think it's the single most successful strategic operation I've seen in my 25 years at UNH. These new logos, these new designs have really made a world of difference in our presence in all of New England. So when Dot contacted me and asked if we would consider the dedication of the UNH program to Nate, we were happy to jump on board. And we've just gone along for the ride. Whatever Dot asks us to do, we're happy to do. So when we have Operation Hat Trick night here at UNH, we'll typically go down on the ice and present some hats to some disabled vets or families who have lost kids in the wars. Or we take the visits to Walter Reed and Bethesda, and those are truly inspirations. So, but if you haven't seen the hang tag, we should probably send you a still. But there's Mike and Nate, their pictures. There's the Operation Hat Trick logo. There's a description here on that backside. So every hat, whether it's Notre Dame or Eastern Illinois or U.S. Naval Academy, every hat will have this very same hang tag. What's so unusual and what's so representative of Dot's great ability to convince people to do things is this hang tag gives so much credit to the University of New Hampshire. But because it's for this worthy cause, no one is thinking twice. Here is one of the UNH hats. It's what I call the retro hat. Mesh, looks like an 80s hat, and the kids seem to love this. The hat that I thought would be a great hit was this camouflage design.
That's when Steve Rich from our Alumni Services office was here. He brought that one, and I like that one myself.
Do you know which university this is?
No, what is it?
Well, camouflage is supposed to be subdued, but this is Clemson. So you would expect an orange paw from them. It doesn't do much for the camo, but we have brought these camouflage hats down to Mike and Nate's base. Every year there's a wall memorial service. Their names are on this wall. And we've given out some of those hats, and let me tell you, they were a big hit with the guys. So we're just delighted. And when we go to Walter Reed and Bethesda, and when you see the look of appreciation from these wounded warriors, that's worth everything.
So what does this mean to you as a father? You've lost your son, to know that that tag that tells your son's story is on every one of these hats, and a college kid or someone from Eastern Illinois University or one of these 93 universities is reading his story.
Well, I mean, the real story is the giving back. When Dot was going to move this to a national platform, I wanted to bring Mike's name on board. Now, we have become close with the Coates through this tragedy and with Mike's fiancée, Kathy. So I sent an email asking whether they would consider this. They're a very, very quiet family. Mike was a very quiet guy, and none of those guys like to talk about what they did. When Nate finally made it on to SEAL Team 6, he said, "Dad, if anyone asks, tell them I'm in research and development." I said, "Okay." But within 20 minutes, several of the family had responded and said, Mike was never in favor of any kind of publicity, but because this is going to help the wounded warriors, we know he would have been for it. And we know that Nate would have been for it as well. So that's a real good feeling.
Well, Steve, it's a great program, and here at EIU, we're very proud to be part of it. And thanks for coming on Veterans Matters and telling us more about the story behind Operation Hat Trick.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.